It's interesting. Some of the, the breathwork stuff that I notice is very counterintuitive. So when someone's in a rip and they're getting dragged out to sea, their intuition is, I need to get to shore as quick as possible because they can't swim. So when they go through that, they go into fight or flight. Their heart rate elevates, their eyes dilate, and they start burning energy. Now, this is absolutely what they don't need to do. So there's an element of counterintuitive where they need to do the opposite to what their body's telling them to do.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Manava Breathing Podcast. I'm joined by Gareth Edwards. My name's Will Fleming. If it's the first time you've joined us on this Manava podcast, look, we talk about breathing, but we not just that, just the foundations that lead to, all of the awesome stuff. So on this podcast, you'll hear, I guess, a lot about us, a lot about our journey with Manava breathing, but also a lot of the journey in breath work and practitioners of breathing. Have I left anything else out, Gareth, in terms of who we want to talk to?
No, I think just people championing health and wellness. I think interesting people with interesting stories. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Awesome, brother. So today's guest is Dean Gladstone, aka Deano. I like that Australians just chuck an O at the end of everything, and I know the Australians will be like, shut up, Kiwi. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough, but it is pretty hilarious, that it's like Willow and Garrow.
I'm not going to say anything.
Gareth, let's give the audience a little bit of, a taster of what we talk about with Deano tonight.
Yeah, so we touch on both Dean and I going down the road of becoming master instructors for the Ocean Advantage, myself here in New Zealand, after just recently completing the instructor course, and working together on that. We have to teach each other a couple of modules, so just kind of going through the logistics of that, going through Deano's discovery into breathing, and just a little bit of a backstory on him, which was fascinating.
It certainly was, and look, he really goes. That's right. He goes deep too into when life wasn't really balanced, and I thought that was interesting. I hadn't expected that, because you see people as they are today, right? And it's not obvious sometimes if someone's had, a slip into the chaos, right? And it's something that we're big proponents of, is to try and keep above board. Sometimes the slow nasal breathing helps you. But Deano definitely goes deep into it. So look, just before we jump into the episode, I do want to say that Manava Breathing is a business, and Gareth and I are working our butts off to work with community, to work with professional athletes. So if you do want to inquire about the Manava Breathing services, you can simply jump on the website, www.manavabreathing.com. Our bios, our emails are there. This is a moving ship team, so it's best to get in now if you're listening to this, because we've got big aspirations, and they are big, right? We're not mucking around here. Gareth and I are both 40. Well, you're 41, are you?
Yeah,
you're so old.
Yeah,
so
thanks,
old.
man.
You're nearly
wise.
50.
I prefer wise.
What would you say? Breathing
great.
Yoda. That's awesome. Breathing Yoda. That's going to be a t-shirt. So yeah, do jump on board, get in touch with us. We're definitely passionate about helping and serving in ways of the breath, and also just what I really love about you, Gareth, is we just like hanging out, and we like hanging out with people. So we can offer an awesome thing, but also, pay us to hang out with you. Sounds a bit dodgy, but I'm open to that.
It's people that add value to our lives as well. We're learning from everybody that we speak to. In the couple of podcasts that we've done now together, we are learning from each individual that we speak to, even little snippets of knowledge. It's people that are enriching our lives. It's not just podcasting for the sake of podcasting, right?
Beautiful. Let's jump into the episode with Dean Gladstone. Thanks everybody for sharing a quick breath with us, and we'll see you at the end of the episode. Deano, can I just firstly ask, what is your pathway into, is it breath work, breathing? How do you become so interested and now become an expert in this field?
Yeah, we're experts, very kind. I'm a jack of all trades and master of none. Well, I'm asthmatic and I was hospitalised at 9 years old. And I don't exactly, and I've been exploring this recently, I don't exactly know how or why, but I knew from that young age that the breath and from swimming. So when you swim, there's it's what Patrick would call intermittent hypoxic training. There's a regulated breath where it slows your breathing pattern down. So I knew that swimming regulated my breath and enabled me to play other sports. And when I didn't swim, it suffered. And when I was swimming and swimming well, I would win the cross-country race at school without running training. So this carryover from swimming, it's sort of, it set me up in life. It gave me a career as a lifeguard. It gave me, an identity, really. Like I was always a swimmer. And I'm super grateful for having asthma and being hospitalised. Now, I did go down a bit of a journey where I discovered yoga, and I was just looking at a photo then. The first yoga class I taught was about 10 years ago. I did my yoga teacher training after that, and then I was already doing the Wim Hof method, and that just, like, I was just blown away by the Wim Hof method. But the nasal breathing is something I'm particularly passionate about, and always since I was health coaching in 2010 or 2011, and nasal breathing and, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system was a big part of that. So it's all just, and lifeguarding on top, because when someone drowns, they panic. So if you can make some sense out of what I just said, I see it all as very connected. And it's led me to where I am at the moment. There's so many opportunities here that I want to explore, from working with athletes to saving lives as a lifeguard, because I've seen it time and time again. People panic and they literally die. Now, I've brought some of these people back to life, and other people haven't been as lucky. So, I'm excited to be working in this field and just, connecting more people with their own physiology and psychology in some cases.
Look, I think we know exactly what you mean, because there's something strange about when you talk about breathing like this. It's very inclusive. It's almost like it's the step before everything. So even if you can't agree on something, you can breathe together. And I really like this because it's a substitute, if you like, for maybe some our ancient traditions that seem a bit silly now, because of, I don't know, different beliefs. And look, I'm someone who's open, but the world is pushing us for logic and proof. And what I love about the breathing is that it ties into this mystical stuff, but it's very science driven, and it just makes you feel damn good. So when you're talking about all these streams, man, well, I'm totally with you, and that's the kind of beauty of it.
Yeah, but the science is showing what the ancient people already knew, which is mind-blowing.
That's the bit that gets me, right? It's we're science now, and we're still learning science. The things that are progressing and the studies that are being done and the way we look at anatomy and physiology, and things are constantly changing. We're understanding more about the brain. You look at the work that Andrew Huberman's doing with the brain and all that kind of stuff. It's fascinating, and we still don't understand it. For the most part, we still don't understand the human body. But these guys, these ancient, civilizations understood all this, hundreds of years before,
well, the
technology nowadays, it's crazy.
Exercise for fun, according to my knowledge of history, and that was sort of somewhere between 5,000 or 8,000 years ago, and that was so they could sit in a position and meditate longer. So started. So they were the first documented people that started to exercise.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something I'm keen to ask James Nestor, because at the end of his book, he goes way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I guess spoiler alert for those. Can you spoil a book? Yeah, I guess you can. I mean, it doesn't really reveal anything apart from breathe through your damn nose. But, he kind of talks about that. This is what we all worshipped before the gods, was air. And I love the idea that we humanized it in a way that it became about the yoga pants and that stuff. And that's exactly wrong, because I think it was about first you start within, and it makes sense, then it manifests out. And I mean, I'm guilty of making it way bigger than it probably needs to be. But I reckon we live in a time now which needs a little bit of something to dream about, where we're all about, if I can just get to Mars, then everything will be good. But I'm like, well, no. What if you go backwards and start by connecting that diaphragm again? And, you start reading articles about that they're timing out the 4 to 6 resonance breathing to old texts, and how it forced you to breathe through prayer. And again, just kind of really interesting, because they were able to access calm, and that's captured my mind. Calm on tap, which seems to be a tablet today, doesn't it?
Well, more relevant than ever before in the history of the world, So it's really really important.
Yeah, I think what's gone on globally has, as a self-employed like yourself, Deano, as a business owner, small business owner, it is pretty trying times, and it's the one thing, and it's about controlling the controllables, that keeps resonating with me, with a lot of business coaches that I've listened to, and Patrick's even mentioned it, controlling the controllables. It's the one thing that we've got that we can do. I can't control what the government's going to say. I can't control the wind closing the harbour bridge. I can't control any of those things, but I can control my own physiology. That's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys ever is there anything in the studies you've done that that answers why the respiratory system is one of the only systems we can tap into? I mean, is this directly related to the need to access, I guess, the fight or flight on purpose, or calm on purpose? How would you explain it if someone said, why can we tap into our breathing?
Well, I think it's not only, if you, those that do know of Dr. Joe Dispenza, would probably agree that he'd probably disagree with that statement, in terms of, but again, I guess the stuff that he does is control from the breathing. A lot of his meditative stuff and the mindfulness that he does practice, and the consciousness that they do go into, a lot of it is driven by the breath, right?
So breathing gives us access to the mind. Yeah, you're right. It is part of the autonomic nervous system, but it is easily influenced by us. And people say maybe that's by design.
Yeah. True.
Well, it seems to be that way, right? Like if you're very logical, you're like, if you can, if the door lock makes the door lock, it's supposed to lock, but then you're supposed to open it again. So, and it's also, if we're supposed to tap into it on purpose, the respiratory or our breathing, the fact that we don't en masse is quite scary, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the, the breathwork stuff that I notice is very counterintuitive. So when someone's in a rip and they're getting dragged out to sea, their intuition is, I need to get to shore as quick as possible, because they can't swim. So when they go through that, they go into fight or flight. Their heart rate elevates, their eyes dilate, and they start burning energy. Now, this is absolutely what they don't need to do. So there's an element of counterintuitive, where they need to do the opposite to what their body's telling them to do. And it's almost the same with a big wave surfer. when a big wave surfer gets pinned under a 10, 15, even a 4 or 6 foot wave for some people is a big wave. And intuition tells you to get back up to the surface where you can breathe. But it's actually the reverse. You need to stay down, relax, and try and stay calm. And when the ocean brings you up is when you come to the surface.
Deano, what if your best guess? Why would that be? And I won't make a habit of putting you on the spot. I'm genuinely interested. I have some thoughts around the immune system, somewhat the same, that it needs to be exposed.
Yep.
Or it starts working against itself, like peanut allergies and that, like the solution is little bits of peanuts every now and then. Why do you think that we're kind of our response is hacked? What's going wrong there, particularly for the swimming? The getting caught in a rip or something like that.
Well, there's a lot of things in society today why people are more anxious, and mental health is an issue. So many issues are stress related, and I guess it's why we're doing what we're doing. I'm teaching people to deal with stress. When I run a workshop, when I put people in the ice bath, when I take them in and out of fast breathing, it's getting to know and understand their nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and controlling their breath as a response through that nervous system. Now, in James Nestor's book, he talked about humans and de-evolution, saying we're going backwards. So we're probably, and we've talked about it already, we're probably, I mentioned it before, we're in a state where this is more relevant than ever because more and more people are stressed and not where they should be. So, yeah, there's lots of interesting questions, but
how much do you think technology and social media brought us, all three of us, together, so it is a useful tool, but how much do you really credit technology and the advancements in technology to the increase in dysfunctional breathing and stress and anxiety?
Yeah, well, I guess I was a health coach, I did some Paul Chek stuff back in the day. Did we chat about that?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah, so the Checkies look at that they have 6 foundations of health. They're looking at someone's mind, firstly, the breathing second. There was hydration third, there was nutrition, there was movement, and how they're sleeping. Now, unless those 5 or 6 things are all right, if you can train as hard as you want, but if your mind's not in the right place, if you're not drinking, some good quality water and you're not breathing correctly, it doesn't matter. You could have the best coaches in the world. So, yeah, it's so much of society is out of whack with those simple foundations of health. And, as a coach or as a friend, just helping people breathe better is the major example. But, eating better, chewing your food, just walking as exercise, getting outdoors, sunlight, fresh air, all the simple things have the biggest bang for the buck.
And sometimes people are most skeptical about the simplest things, right?
Absolutely. And it was, Wim Hof says that there was a study in 2011 that put him on the map. And it was the endotoxin study where they injected him with a flu-like bacteria, and he was able to breathe that out. And it wasn't until then that more and more people got on board. Yeah, there's definitely an element of science that people need. And then, for other people, feeling it will be beneficial too. But yeah, it's cool. I could do this stuff all night. I can't wait to hear what you guys chat about with your future guests.
Well, I hope it's exactly like this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's just as you and I spoke, Deano, a couple of weeks ago. The breathing in New Zealand. When people think breathing, they think Wim Hof. That's pretty much the go-to, with the likes of Nige. Shout out to Nige. He's championed breathing, breath work in New Zealand more than probably like Breathworks, probably again the other premier breathwork company or practitioners. He's really kind of grabbed hold of the Wim Hof method and really run with it. It's nice to see that now it's becoming front of mind. With the likes of with us, there's a couple of other breathing things out there at the moment, and New Zealand's pretty. We're pretty receptive to new things. If they're backed by, mostly if they're backed by famous people. If they see an All Black doing it, then they'll probably go, "Oh, well, no, I should be doing it then because Richie McCaw does it." Well, yeah, maybe not, but yeah, it's exciting to be, as Will touched on, be at the forefront of this in a very young country. We're only a team of 5 million, as they keep banging on the media about. It's to be at the forefront and be able to go out there and educate some of these people, and some devout hoffers like will turn around and go, "Oh, I just saw this guy James Ness," and we're like, "Well, I've known about James Ness for a while now." Stuff like that. It's pretty cool to be to be those guys.
Well, yeah. Well, and Deano, the other thing that I keep picking up is that, and I don't want to make anything apart, because I kind of see, Wim Hof, and let's just say Wim Hof and Patrick McKeown, they're two sides of the same coin. One is kind of accessing the grunt and the feeling, and the other does too, but in a slightly different way. And maybe I'd like to ask you in the next question, how do you define the difference there, or the similarities? But I definitely find with the slow nasal breathing that it almost like encourages people towards it who have felt calm but have struggled to express that. Like I'm someone who's lucky to have felt much calm in my life, love, if you like. And now I get to say, look, access this. This is how you feel. It's supposed to feel good. You don't need to unconsciously hyperventilate yourself into panic. Do that on purpose and awaken that stuff on purpose. So that's what I really like. It's kind of very loving, and maybe I'm getting too cheesy. So I'll go back to the other bit, Deano. Do people ask you the differences between Wim Hof and Oxygen Advantage or Patrick's systems?
Well, I teach a combination of things.
Yeah.
I don't. The Wim Hof people said I had to teach in a certain way, and I don't want to be told exactly how to teach, in some regards. So yeah, I veered away. They told me a couple of years ago I couldn't call my workshops Wim Hof workshops if I didn't do this, this, and this. And I've been teaching breathing and looking at the way people breathe for a long time now. I was already a yoga teacher. I trained in pranayama, and I just went, okay, I'm gonna call this power of the breath. Now I love Wim Hof because it gets people into their own body where they can affect change in their own body and they can feel it in a way that they've never felt it before. And I feel like that's a segue into natural therapies, maybe using less pharmaceuticals, yoga, meditation, whatever is their interest. I feel that somehow, he's so charismatic, Wim Hof, and he's just bringing people into this way of life. And, they're getting together and having ice baths. I go to young people's houses and they like hire me and my girlfriend for parties. And like kids in their mid-20s, like when I was in my mid-20s, I was getting like wasted. These kids are like, they're having breathing sessions and ice baths as a get-together. And, we had one group doing acro yoga where they got, not standing, but getting each other upside down. And then pre-COVID, of course, unfortunately. And then got them high as a kite doing Wim Hof, talked about the benefits of nasal breathing in the ice bath, and they were pumped. So, yeah, really grateful to be able to do what I do.
Yeah, man. That's right.
Yeah, I think like all three of us, we are really fortunate to be able to do this. Like yourself, I've been a strength coach for quite some time now, many years, and I get to wake up every morning and go to sleep every night. And I said this to Will a while back, knowing that I've made positive impact in people's lives.
Mm.
And that's a pretty cool feel. I do that for no money. For a lot of it, I did. And if you ask Will, we still are. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because my job as a coach is to coach you to be better than you were yesterday, and to be better tomorrow than you were today, and to teach you things. That's our job, right? We're here to teach people stuff. I think that's why we're good at it. I said this to Will earlier on, and it's a Patrick thing about not worrying about the money in terms of doing this. Those that are out there, those that will be listening to this podcast, and again, I've said this in one of Will's other podcasts that we've done. If you want to get into training and coaching to make money,
yeah, you're in it for the wrong.
It's not going to happen. You're not, all these trainers and these celebrity coaches that you see on the gram and on the old interwebs with the, BMW i8s, and they're rocking around in the big flash cars and the G-Wagons. It's all crap. It's all nonsense. It's most trainers, no, that's not what it's about. Look, you can get some pretty successful trainers that do some really cool things, but for the most part, us coaches, we're in it for the love of what we do and the love of teaching and giving back. We're ultimately giving back. We're sharing knowledge.
Yeah,
that's what it is. We're there to share knowledge of our own, life's journeys, of our own learnings. I think that's why we get such a buzz out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deano, as I've seen online that you've got a couple little critters that you brought into this world, and one of the things I have, and it's an interesting dynamic, is I've got three kids, 14, 12, and 2. So they all, send me into some type of sympathetic, mindset. And I know I need to be patient as I'm going down this breathwork journey, but here's the bit. You always catch it a bit too late. I can get myself, once I've been in, the hulks come out, I can calm myself down, but I've had this idea of like, I need to start buffering so that I can get ahead of it. And I just wonder if you had any kind of experience or tactics that, you use yourself or offer others.
I did a podcast, it was yesterday, and he asked me about parenting. I'm like, hang on, well, this is, I'm not giving parenting advice. But yeah, I'm often talking to my kids about remaining calm, but I feel sometimes kids push and push and push until you react. And now I don't know why that is. And after you react and yell at them, they seem to go into peace, and it's sad. But, as a lifeguard, yelling at people is sometimes effective communication. Now, it may only be as a lifeguard, and it may only be my opinion, but in critical situations, I feel you have to yell at people. And, if your kid's playing with a PowerPoint, I think the best thing to do is yell at that kid.
Yell at them, yeah.
Because you need to make that, I feel, this is just my opinion, you need to make that important as something not to do. And that's our job, is to teach. And that's all I'm going to say on parenting.
Oh, mate, I love it.
It is. It's just it's a testing mechanism, right? They're there to they're learning the boundaries of just how far can I push this other human being? Yeah. Where's dad's limit? Where can I, where is it? Where is that? And they just sort of teeter on the edge, and I watch it all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, mate, you're being tested so much.
Well, look, and there's something interesting that's emerging as we're chatting, is this kind of counterintuitive nature that life has, and I mean, we're all aware of it, right? If you're full all the time, you won't enjoy the taste. If you're too hungry, it's not fun anymore. And it's trying to find that balance. And I mean, history's littered with balance, or the attempt to achieve it. And I guess that's the eternal goal, is to never find the answer, but to battle with it and to have these tools to battle with it. Because, when you talk about yelling, yeah, that makes sense. Get yourself into the sympathetic zone quickly because the stakes are high, right? And then it's about, well, how can you get yourself out of that as quickly and and to try and not let, what's the balance, because yeah, you're right, man. And look, this is only our opinions. That's the beauty of a podcast. We won't sit here and pretend to know everything, but we've got to give ourselves permission to dabble in real time. Otherwise, it's just the influencers who will come across as the experts, and it's the people who get it wrong in life that you learn from if you're listening, So, yeah, it's got me thinking.
What do they say? Fail, first attempt in learning. But yeah, much lessons I've learned over the years, like, as a lifeguard, yelling at people, I've got someone on the back of the jet ski back, get off, because I need to get out the back and save someone else's life. And when you ask them politely to get off, they don't. So many lessons. And, as you just said, Will, like, if you go up to that sympathetic, it's coming back and not holding to it. So not letting that ruin your day. And
in terms of that, Dean, have you worked with many combat athletes?
No, I haven't.
No. That's one thing that I tend to work in that kind of stuff. Just sort of looking at your experience. If you'd been in those sort of scenarios, so obviously that's where these guys are at. Someone's going to punch you in the face, kick you in the face. They have to be in that state. And, with sort of what Patrick teaches in terms of, the slow nasal breathing prior to, and then, some breath holds and that kind of stuff. Like, you don't want, we had a chat to a guy, Anton, who owns Float Culture here in New Zealand, co-owns Float Culture. And he actually had Izzy Adesanya do a float many years ago when they were sort of starting out, and they sponsored him a couple of floats, and he did one the day before a fight. Was that right, Will? It was right. Day before, and he ended up, it was one of his very few losses. He was just, or was it the day of?
Yeah, something like that.
It was the day of the fight, and Anton was like, no, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should sort of surrender to those kind of feelings. And he ended up losing the fight. So he kind of, I didn't say it, but kind of did sort of lean towards, he blamed the float for losing the fight.
I work with, I work on trial and error. I measure something, implement it, and try and retest. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't be encouraging people to try something new before fight. So I think, someone should have given him some guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working with the fighters and the boxers that I do work with. I'm very conscious of keeping them calm, obviously, because that, keeping some of the fighters that I deal with are some of the calmest people on the earth. Because they have to be, but they know when to switch it on and go Hulk mode. It's just really interesting in terms of, obviously, a lot of Patrick's teachings is around that kind of sport and high performance. But he talks about, running and rugby. There's a lot of research. There's some studies done around breath holding and repeated sprintability for aerobic capacity for rugby players, but combat's a whole different animal.
Absolutely. It's and again, like, it's just, bring something in new, give them to try it. Try not to, different things work for different people. Like, I've been coaching people for a while now, and I just, I see vegan athletes doing well. It's not doesn't work for me.
Yep.
And when people ask me for advice, it's more of a paleo type, whole food, natural plan, full fat diet. But, if people are doing well on a diet and they're happy and they don't want to change, I don't make people But yeah, I sort of just try and point out and try and assess and maybe implement change if they want to. But
Yeah, Will and I had an interesting conversation a couple of weeks back in the car around fasting and breathing, and whether there's a correlation there between doing long fasts and implementing some breathing practices to increase the benefits of that fast.
yeah,
Your thoughts?
I'm a huge fan of fasting.
Yep.
Intermittent fasting. Yeah, big fan. Yeah, I guess eating food would throw digestion off, would increase respiratory rate.
Yep.
Yeah, breathing and I guess just focusing on something else when you're fasting. Breathing would be super beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
You can meditate. You would meditate. If not, breathing's for people that can't meditate. Breathing is meditation. So yeah, it's brilliant.
With breathing being meditation, like one of the things obviously about Australia and New Zealand is the archetypal man, the bloke, the I don't need to have feelings type thing, and now we know that of course you do, or you bottle them up and they sink you. I love the idea that breathing is a way to enact, maybe not all of the principles of meditation, but it gets you into that zone. Have you kind of been, your career and kind of, health coaching, did you ever find it tough to explain to these blokey blokes, or, once they're in, they're in?
Yeah, well, so when I run face-to-face workshops, Will, there's a Wim Hof theme to it, and it's breath work and an ice bath. So you get the big blokey blokes coming in going, I'm going to do an ice bath. I'm a man, And then during the breathing, we really encourage people to be open to letting their emotions go. There's a trauma release element to it. And you see these big blokey blokes, the ones that can do it, sort of shed a tear or some emotion or talk about gratitude for their family at the end. So, again, having, I guess, people, they don't really know what they're coming for sometimes, and they get a different sensation. But having that ice bath seems to really help me get through what I want to get through as a bit of a hook.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've trialed early on, and because we're really trialing this in real time, the Manava breathing is, I guess, essentially slow nasal breathing, and then oxygen advantage is the science grunt behind it. But we worked with a rugby club in very early days, and I wanted to get them in the ice. And one of our instincts was, well, instead of having these guys, how we would normally imagine blokes, I'm going to jump in the ice and show you how tough I am. The goal was to be as calm as you could be. And Gareth and I were actually just going to show a few ice baths to a basketball team that we now work with, and it just happened that the team were really into Gareth working with them, and he chucked them in and asked them to breathe nasally, and they all did the same thing. They all closed their eyes and looked like they were meditating. And I said to him, man, that's interesting, because you didn't ask them to do that, but they all kind of went into this fetal position in their mind, because I think they couldn't handle anything else. It was like, I either do that or I scream. And I thought it was a real interesting insight as to exactly what's happening there. And it's that counterintuitive, your body thinks it's in trouble, which it would be if your mind didn't overcome that to say, I'm fine, keep breathing.
Yeah, they've probably got some experience with it as well. And knew where to go. But yeah, it's great when you see athletes taking it in their stride.
Yeah, and these boys were, sorry, go on, Will.
No, go.
The boys were, we got 3 out of a team of 12 to get into the ice that were receptive enough to actually do it. And once they got in, they were, like the Wim Hof, and as you know, Deano, I've done one with Nige. The first 30 seconds is pretty hellish. But yeah, these guys kind of got in. It was post game as well, so and they didn't have a a good result to the end of the game. So it was a pretty muted mood in the locker room. So having the boys to get out of that mindset was really interesting to be a part of, to see them kind of, shift and then be receptive to the things that I was saying and getting them to do. It was really quite cool. And that kind of was the springboard to actually get us working with them more now.
Yeah, whatever you can get people going with is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Deano, just a couple more things. I desperately want to ask what you get up to outside of breathing. Like I know we fall into the trap of this is the hobby to talk about and the way we make our living. What else floats your boat, brother? Like,
Good question. It's yeah, so I'm a bit of I don't know, like my life is sort of health based, I love living a healthy lifestyle. My girlfriend's a yoga teacher. We got two young kids each. So there's four kids sometimes. And then on the other weekends, it's just us, which is really nice. So we like to get away and be in nature wherever possible. I'm a personal trainer. I still lifeguard. I teach a little bit of yoga. Surfing, playing tennis. I haven't really. I've been alcohol free this year, which is my girlfriend gave up alcohol maybe 18 months ago. So I haven't given up alcohol. I don't have a problem with it. But I just with COVID, there has just been no occasions on where I've felt the need to celebrate. My sister's 40th birthday she was pregnant, and we just didn't drink. So I'm just out. I love the sunshine. I love the fresh air.
How is it? Because being in New Zealand, you come across celebrities, Shorty Street and that kind of stuff. The odd TV shows, you sort of rub shoulders with TV people. How has it been since you've had cameras in your guys' lives for a while now? Like, you guys are pretty well known. What's that kind of been like through just some guys out there saving lives? That's what you guys do, and what you're very good at, and it's what many lifeguards do throughout your country and ours, and here in New Zealand. What's that? Is that sort of taken a little bit to get used to?
Well, it's a long time now, Gareth. Like it's season 15 of Bondi Rescue. So
yeah,
like 15 years ago, like every time we were getting filmed, we thought we were going to be on TV.
Yeah.
Slowly we realised, I think there might have been 6 or 8 episodes in that first year, and the episodes are 22 minutes. So they filmed 600 or 800 hours, and I don't know what the maths is to that 120 minutes, but there's only a very small percentage that goes on TV.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to learn many lessons from lifeguarding, and I've referred to it tonight. And Bondi Rescue sort of taught me that people liked me for who I am. I was definitely a little bit different. I was very much into my health. I had in 2005, I was king hit and had my 4 front teeth knocked out.
Shit.
So one of these is fake. Anyway, I got a big bridge under there. So that sent me into depression, post-traumatic stress syndrome. I had allergies. I was gluten intolerant. If I had sugar, I had dermatitis. I used to scratch myself till I bled. So
wow.
I was pretty stuffed up after that, and really focused on getting my health back, because I struggled at school. I was dyslexic. I had to teach myself the alphabet after I left school, and I was an apprentice plumber, and I'd be going through street directories and couldn't find all the streets. So I was focused on my health, because I needed my body to earn a living, whether that be life plumbing or personal training were my 3 career options back then. And being involved in books and writing online courses and doing all the stuff that I'm doing now, I never envisioned was an option for me, working from a computer like it is now. But back then I needed my body, so I was really focused on my health, and I was super sensitive to everything. So if I ate the wrong food, my body would let me know about it. So I've sort of carried that on through where I really just value my health and yeah, like sort of just I'm a big kid basically, big healthy kid.
It's a good way to be.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Well, I think one of the things, Dino, that's come through is the need for variety, right? It sounds like you purposefully give yourself variety of nature, of the city, of, even the breathing that you offer. It's a variety of we're on, we're off. And why I love that, mate, is because we forget, but we're slowly moving towards a system now, which is you pick your team and you back that tooth and nail. And what I love about our chat, tonight, is that it's about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because that's about as good as you can do.
Yeah, doing your best. Good. Yeah, I do like variety, Will. It's a really well put. And I sort of, I purposely don't work with too many people training so I can study for the breath work. I love studying and learning. And again, my teachers would be rolling in their grade or flipping their heads if they heard me saying that. But yeah, and I want to continue to work as a lifeguard as well. I'm looking forward to teaching more breath work in a longer format. And that scares me and excites me. And yes, trying to have time to be a parent and put into myself as well, if I value the food and the nutrition and stuff like that. So I don't want to be eating takeaway for me to be able to train people and earn more money. It's about cooking my own food and connecting with the earth and living my best life.
Fantastic. So Power of the Breath is your personal brand?
Yeah, Power of the Breath is what it sort of evolved to, is my breathwork pay. It's my Instagram handle for my I didn't want to be just banging on constantly about breathwork on my main page, so I thought people might get sick of it. So for the people that are more interested, I've set a Power of the Breath. And that's what, I feel that it is. When someone panics in a rip, it's their breath. And even when someone's in an ice bath, it's their breath. And, it's the way we sleep at night. The breath is huge, as you guys know, right? I'm preaching to the converted.
Yeah. Do you tape your mouth when you sleep?
Yeah. I haven't been for the last couple of weeks, and I can tell when I'm breathing through my nose at night. And yesterday, before I woke up with a dry mouth, I'm like, okay, get the tape on last night.
Yeah, I've struggled with sleep for many years. I think I'd put that down to probably caffeine. I'd probably drink a little bit too much caffeine. But also just, the joys of running businesses and having stresses in your life. Sleep has always been a battle of mine. Came across obviously the Auction Advantage, and the big part of it, those the listening that don't know, Patrick talks about taping your mouth when you sleep. And I worked with the basketball team this weekend, and the task I gave them on Saturday after our first session was I gave them some kinesiology tape, because I've struggled to find some tape here in New Zealand that actually works well enough that stays on my lips. And obviously, as you can see, Will and I are bearded, and I thought, I'm going to give K-tape a go, and works beautifully. Those that want some good tape, use simple kinesiology tape. Gave it to the boys, incredibly skeptical. These athletes are just like, am I going to stop breathing? No, mate, you're not going to stop breathing. Your body won't let you stop breathing. So just don't worry. It may interrupt some extracurricular activities that you're going to maybe get up to. Maybe do that first.
Or increase it.
Or increase it, yeah. But give it a go. Trust me. And luckily they did. And yeah, they all did it, all bought into it, all did it. All were amazed that obviously it stayed on all night, and they slept really well. And I'm the same. I know when I haven't done it, when I haven't taped. I have restless sleeps. I'm not fully refreshed when I wake up. I'm like you. I'm a trainer as well, Dean, and get up early in the mornings, and if I don't tape in that first early morning client, it's a bit of a drag. And I'm counting down the minutes till I can turn my coffee machine on. Whereas now I tape when I do remember to do it, and I'm up and I'm away. It's a huge difference.
Such a good feeling when everything's in sync.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess to add to that, I'm kind of like, well, I'm the opposite to you guys. I am fighting to become more healthier. You know, part of the drama of being someone who was given a lot of love, we call that a spoiled shit. And I was the king of eating and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden it catches up with you as an adult, and you can't breathe properly. And we had convinced ourselves and my family that loudest snorer meant alpha male, but that's of course horseshit, right? You're the unhealthiest breathers out. So I have this mouthful of crooked teeth from childhood of mouth breathing, overweight, trying to bring the blood pressure down, with the goal of, getting off these tablets. So hearing you guys talk, it's like, I really enjoy this because I love being able to try and control the snoring. The reason I joke to my friends that I married my wife is because she could sleep next to me. And I was like, that's the one, and I still actually really believe that. But even she's like, hey man, I think you're not snoring as much. And I'm like, yes, I finally found something, it's because there's no will your way out of it. I love the fact that part of the long journey for us is with the youth too, to know that your mouth's supposed to be closed, the palate's, the tongue's supposed to be on the top. It helps with development, and it's so obvious, but it's one of those counterintuitive things. You can tell, no, actually, maybe that's the full circle. It's no surprise that someone would panic the wrong way if they haven't developed the simple things of keeping your mouth shut at night, right? And all the small building blocks to bad decisions are, kind of, maybe that's not a direct link, but I guess it's like the foundations have to be correct for it to be strong in the moments that matter, right?
Yeah. Hey, boys, I need to run to the toilet. Can we hold for a sec?
Of course.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepped.
And all I took from that, I listened, and all I took from it was, when we go on business trips, don't share a room with Will.
No, probably
Get separate rooms.
If you find yourself in a bed with me, ask yourself what's been going on.
Yeah, I'll be asking, what choices did I make?
I already
that
asked
led me to this situation that I'm sharing a bed with my business partner.
Deano, we promised we wouldn't take too much of your time, so I guess we've covered a bit. I mean, here's the thing that I want to acknowledge is that both Gareth and yourself are going down this road of the master instructor, if you like, for Oxygen Advantage. It's very interesting, and I love the fact that we get to share all of this stuff in real time. I guess for you guys, because not that many people are master instructors of Oxygen Advantage, maybe just one little bit each. What's something you're excited about that? Why are you excited to become, we'll start with you, Gareth. Why are you excited to become a master instructor for Oxygen Advantage?
Because it's the sharing of knowledge for me, and teaching those people that are, really passionate about learning that part of their own journey. Training the trainers, you tend to be talking to people who are going to challenge your learnings and the studies, but are also going to be fairly receptive to that. A lot of people that aren't necessarily educated in the same things that you are can be fairly resistant to things, whereas teaching those people, the coaches and the strength coaches and other teachers, I think, are going to be a little bit more receptive to the message and to the learning. That's what I'm pretty excited about.
And yourself, Deano?
Yeah, it's funny. I was trying to listen to Gareth, but then trying to think of my own answer as well.
Sorry, mate.
Really good answer. Mate, I have the utmost respect for Patrick McEwen. I know I've referred to Wim multiple times tonight, but it's Patrick's teaching that's really blown blown my head in the last couple of years. And I can listen to that man. I listen to him over and over. Every podcast he does, I listen to it 2 or 3 times, and he's brilliant, and he just knows the science. And again, he just does what he does really well. And I'm really excited to be working, with him and being in contact with him. It's, I've heard him speak so many times. I'm fanboying when I'm, sort of chatting to Patrick. So, just really excited to it. I'm honoured that Patrick thinks that enough to teach his stuff. So,
same. I'm like, we had a chat to Patrick a couple of weeks ago. We managed to grab a little bit of his time and did a podcast with him. And again, I echoed your feelings and your sentiments right there, Deano. I said to him, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, I've seen a bunch of your videos online, and now I'm actually chatting to you face to face. It was quite a cool feeling. I was like, this is pretty cool. We're getting to speak to somebody in that same realm as James Nestor and those guys. Like, it was awesome.
I was so happy for him too to get the shout out on Joe Rogan when James Nestor was on, because
exactly.
I'm a funny guy like that. Like, I don't leave anything to. Well, I try not to leave too much to interpretation, particularly if there's a trusting relationship. It's like, you need to know that I like you, So I tell Gareth every day, but I messaged him straight away. I was like, congrats on getting mentioned on Rogan, and he's like, Patrick's like, oh, I didn't even know. And I'm like, you're such a crack up, like he's a little bit like, I don't know, something really stoic about Patrick McEwen. And anyways, let's wrap this up. Deano, just a website or a link people can follow you if they aren't already, for our local Kiwis who maybe haven't come across you yet.
Contact with me. I've got a website, deanogladstone.com. My Instagram handle is Deano Gladstone, Facebook Deano Gladstone, and I get heaps of messages off people, and I generally respond to most people. Occasionally, someone asks me what time it is in Australia, and I'm like, oh, you don't encourage people to ask stupid questions. I've been lucky over the years. I get lots of beautiful people reaching out and saying nice things about me mostly. You can find me and chat with me online. Ask me any questions. And I've recently released an online course, which is, again, like I mentioned, something I never thought I'd do. And, teaching breath work to people face to face and online is just epic.
It is epic.
The other question I had for you, Deano, I only just sort of remembered, in terms of like community outreach sort of work, sort of non-paid, maybe working with schools. Is that something that you've done in the past, or something that you're interested in as well?
Yeah, as a B grade or C grade celebrity that I am, we get hit up to do a shitload of charity work. And early on, we did a lot of breast cancer stuff, and then it's literally just the mental health charities are just crying out for it. In Australia, over 4,000 people kill themselves every year. And, unfortunately, I've picked up many bodies as a lifeguard. I see it firsthand. And it's, I work with like 3 or 4 of my close friends have their own mental health charities. So, I'm
right.
And doing bits and pieces all the time. And
that's awesome.
Sometimes me sending a T-shirt off for people to raffle, they can raise $500 or $1,000. So it's quite easy for me to do little things and make a difference. Me stopping and getting a photo with people really brightens their day and makes a huge difference in their life. So it's not much for me to stop and smile and have a quick chat.
Yeah, it was funny. Sort of the last one of the last classes that Patrick does for the instructor training, he talks about the money and doing seminars and classes and stuff for free. Like, do you think as breath coaches and as breathing practitioners, it should be, some of that should be free to certain parts of the community, disadvantaged youth, perhaps? Is that something that you see valuable?
And again, with the mental health charities, we work with kids, Indigenous kids.
Cool.
Yeah, always helping out, promoting his stuff, and we're looking to put some programs together. It is interesting though, working with some people and offering stuff for free. I've offered a lot of free sessions over the years, and it's almost like people don't value it sometimes, and it's not. So it's sort of, if people pay, sometimes they appreciate it more. Really odd, really odd. So.
It's something that free paid is something my podcasting has allowed me to hack.
Yeah.
I get time for hours with people, even you tonight, just getting your time, getting your insights, getting your expertise and deep thoughts on things is something that we should pay you for, but you gave it. And I don't know how long the podcasting thing is cool enough before everyone's like, nah, you're just getting me to do an hour-long TED Talk. You should pay. But, I guess in saying that, brother, we'll let you go. We just want to thank you for joining us. And look, I really want to thank you because we couldn't see each other in person even if we wanted to right now. That's our world. And so it will mean a lot that it has meant a lot to capture this. But look, I look forward to one day hopefully being able to get you across the ditch here, or us to come across and to, share some of this knowledge that we're researching in terms of the Manava community, which is ancient practices of Pacific breathing. Like there's a history of nasal breathing from the Pacific Islands.
Learn more about it, and I feel like I've just been talking about myself.
No, but that's why we got you here. Gareth and I talk about ourselves all day.
Yeah, so, thanks, guys.
There we go, Gareth. Look, it was kind of what I expected, just a nice chilled chat, very parasympathetic, right? No.
Yeah, I've had
the
pleasure of chatting to Deano before, prior to us jumping on this podcast to arrange training times and link in schedules. Dean is a very busy man. He has very little time, so it's amazing that he gave us that time tonight to chat for the better part of an hour.
That's right.
Which was awesome. He's got a lot going on, and as he mentioned, he's just released his first online training program, which was amazing to hear, given his challenges growing up in terms of being dyslexic and all that kind of stuff, and his battling to learn. So that was really nice to hear, and to see him getting to the point where he's at now.
Well, and a couple of themes emerged too within the chat. One, I guess this kind of counterintuitive nature that life has. That maybe if you don't get a few of the foundational things in order, it comes out in weird ways. Like he gave the example of how people react in tense situations in the ocean. And that's a really interesting one because we're taught that the body, think about mouth taping, the body won't let you suffocate, right? But it lets you go down this rabbit hole of over panicking in these, when you're drowning.
Yep.
And it's almost like the, to be able to control the chaos hasn't been practiced enough, because that's kind of what you need to do in that tense, let the wave roll you, hold into it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, and you did touch on that just then in terms of controlling the chaos and those guys and the people that people that have seen it, Bondi Rescue and what those guys do. They rescue people in Bondi Beach, very notorious rips, and people do panic, and it's guys like Deano and the other lifeguards that have practiced that. It's like every other, I'm going to panic the first time I get up in front of a large corporate or a large sports team and giving a speech. But the more you do it, the the more calm you're going to be, right? And that all comes from nasal breathing.
Yeah, that's right. That's
right. Getting, and Patrick talks about it in terms of, when he first started giving speeches and doing seminars and talks and that kind of thing, and it is nerve-wracking, and you do panic. So I think having something like that where you've got a tool to go to, and we can teach people that you don't have to panic.
You don't have to panic. That's right. It's a choice. Well, it's not a choice. You want to panic, but you can override it. I guess that's the take-home message, and it ain't easy, but it's possible.
It's a learned skill.
That's
just
right.
Like anything else. Like I said to the boys on the weekend that I worked with, this is a learned thing, and this is a muscle. Treat it like a muscle, just like anything else. You're going to have to work at it. It's not going to change overnight. And that's the narrative of the auction advantage. Like this isn't simple quick fixes. If you're looking for that magic pill, this isn't it. There are some things that will help kind of quickly, but for the most part, this is changing a lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. Look, let's jump into selling us a little bit. So if you're interested in changing your lifestyle, as Gareth swiftly helped me get into, do touch base with us. So you can visit manavabreathing.com, and there's our contacts there. You can touch base with us on Instagram and all that stuff. We're serious about it, and if you want to be serious about your breathing, then we're probably the right guys for you, particularly in New Zealand, because regardless of where you are on that journey, whether you're intro or you're at that high level, to get to the really high level where Gareth is, and he's a master instructor for Oxygen Advantage, you can also get your certificate in Oxygen Advantage as an instructor. So many reasons to touch base with us, and the best one is that we're just good people and we want to hang out with other good people. So let's wrap it here. Gareth, man, thanks for hanging out with me and doing this journey with me. It's bloody fun. I tell you, man, it is bloody fun. Our chats are being recorded now, but they're not too different to when it's just me and you talking.
I have to agree. Yeah, we've done a few of these now, and they are pretty similar to just how we chat.
We go deep, and that's where I believe we need to be, because it's a confusing old world that we live in at the moment, and it's not obvious where the future lies. So we go within and we look at the things that can help us control the controllables, as the breathing Yoda often tells me. Wrapping up here, team. Thanks very much for listening and joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.